Hello everyone, welcome back to Easy Education London, and this is our GCSE English video. Now it's important you stay all the way until the end, as I will be revealing some important and top secrets in preparation for your GCSE English exams. Now this is in fact the part 2 of our series. Now if you have watched part 1, please do check it out and go over it, as this is simply a continuation. Now, how do you actually achieve the top marks, right? I will be revealing the secrets, so make sure you stay until the end, and don't forget to press the subscribe button, like and share with your friends, as it does help our channel grow. And also I would like to thank you all for your continuous support and amazing feedback. Honestly, it means a lot. So thank you all for the positive comments and feedback. And also don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms at Easy Education London. Now, if you want to achieve top grades and excellent results with the help of our amazing teachers, do consider joining our online classes. Now, if you are interested, do contact us via email, which is easyeducationlondon@gmail.com. I'll leave the details in the description below. So if you are interested, do contact us today, and a member of staff will be in touch with you in regards to those classes. Our spaces are extremely limited, as you can imagine. Exam season has started, so our spaces are extremely limited. So do not wait and start as soon as possible. Right. Having a look at the question itself, your creative writing question will look something like this. Now, as you can see, this is just a past paper question which we're looking at. It reads, write a story about a time when things turned out unexpectedly. Now, if you have watched part 1, you would have remembered that I have told you you would have remembered that I would have reminded you all the importance of pre-planning and memorizing your stories. Okay, so the reason I say this is because it helps you get top marks in the exam. Instead of writing from scratch, if you have a pre-written story, you're almost guaranteed to get top marks. So what I did advise you all to do is to write generic grade 8, grade 9 paragraphs that you can use to get the top marks. So remember, for this question, you are advised to plan, and there's certain things that you will always describe, whether you're attempting the description or the narrative. There's certain things that you need to include. Now, ask yourself this, right? In terms of a story, regardless of what the question is, can you describe emotions? So if we're talking emotions of characters, so if we're looking at positive, if we're looking at negative, absolutely. So essentially what you need to do is write paragraphs for positive and negative emotions and memorize those. Weather, will you be describing the weather? If it's, for example, positive weather or negative weather, if you're doing the description or if you're doing the narrative, yes. Common things that you can describe with any story. Okay, so I'll give you examples. Let's use blue. Can you describe the sea? Yes. Can you describe the sky? Yes. What else can you describe? Can you describe the land? Can you describe trees, etc.? Can you describe the river? Can you describe the grass, etc.? So these are just some examples, okay, of things that you can describe in any story or any description. So what you need to do is you need to have memorized your paragraphs. Now, you might think, but sir, where do I start? The good news is I've already created a template or a body of text that you can use regardless of the question. So let's have a look at it in further detail. Now, as you can see from this example, these are some paragraphs for negative weather. So if you watched part 1 of our series here, you'd know that, for example, if you are asked to write a story about an abandoned house, generally speaking, you'd have negative weather, you'll have a negative atmosphere. So these are some paragraphs that you can memorize. So it reads, so these are, by the way, 3 variations, which you can use whichever you prefer. The overwhelming sound of silence engulfs me. When I stare down into the lake, my reflection stares back at me, only slightly distorted by the light ripples. The day is filled with tranquil air which is still, and the weather, although chill, is shockingly friendly. The high peaks of the mountains emerge ahead, hardly meeting in the middle and forming a gateway for the valiant valley beyond. I observe the trail of the lake as it heads uphill, only slightly obscured by the light mist that curls around the slopes of the mountains in the distance. When summer breaks through the veil of spring, the slopes will be mottled yellow and healthy green as the warmth encourages life back into the landscape. For now, everything is cast through a stale grey filter. Now, why is this an excellent paragraph? Because there's a lot of show not tell, there's a variety of language devices, there's ambitious vocabulary, and there's a range of punctuation and sentence types. So that's one variation you all can potentially memorize. Can this fit in well into a narrative or a story about an abandoned house? Absolutely, because that's something that could take place outside, and the abandoned house could be nearby within the vicinity. The second variation, again to do with negative weather. The night was thick. Heavy tendrils of fog swirled about the murky sky like ink in water, and the moon stood out against the sky like a smudge of greased leaves, an opaque stain on wax paper. Below, Poseidon let out a mighty roar, a cacophony of ear-splitting cracks as violent waves dashed against the rocks, harsh winds lashing against the cold, hard water, and the thunderous hum of tiny daggers of rain cutting into the surface of the choppy seas. This oppressive orchestra had an accompaniment, desperate cries for help, useless commands shouted in hoarse voices, the splitting of wooden boards and screaming, quickly diminishing into empty silence. So that's the second variation. Now, again, very similar. There's a lot of sensory language being used, ambitious vocabulary like cacophony, and it's very, very evocative as well. And is this something that you can use when writing a story about an abandoned house, writing a story about something negative? So, for example, about an unexpected event. Is this something that could fit in somewhere? Absolutely. And the third option we have here is, again, if you're writing a top answer, grade 8, grade 9 answer, ideally you want to show a variation of sentences or paragraph lengths. So here we have a one sentence paragraph. Why should you use this? Simply because it shows a focus shift or a shift in focus. So for example, thunder lashed through the air like the crack of a whip, and the blinding strobe of lightning illuminated the murky sky for a split second. Okay, so that's something that you can use to show a shift in focus in your narrative. So for example, if you're writing the story about an abandoned house and you're trying to shift the focus and you're trying to use structure for effect, this is something that would work perfectly well as a one sentence paragraph to get top marks. Now, you can use that negative weather and also bring in positive weather where something happens within the abandoned house and things start to change. And remember, I mentioned this in part 1. It's actually marks, or you'll get marks for using juxtaposition. So there's a contrast. So let me show you the contrast here. So as you can see, these are the positive weather paragraphs that I've gone over previously, and you can fit them in wherever you prefer. So as you can see, these are some, like, at least 3 to 4 grade 8, grade 9 paragraphs that you all can memorize and use in your creative writing, regardless of the question. So my top tip, my advice is for you to start memorizing these and use it when answering a question, and practice answering multiple questions using those paragraphs I've given you, and adapt it and tailor it to answer the question. So this is essentially an amazing cheat sheet that you can use in preparation for your creative writing. And ultimately, it's something so simple but effective, and it will help you get the top marks in your upcoming creative writing exams. Now, some top tips for you to remember. How do you get the highest marks? You need to, for example, use ambitious vocabulary. You need to use a range of language devices, and you also need to use a range of punctuation. These are things that are crucial and are vital for you to succeed in creative writing. And even simple things like show not tell. Many students forget about the importance of show not tell, and it's something that you should be using essentially to get the top marks, because it makes your writing evocative, it makes your writing engaging, and it allows the reader to continue reading your answer. And finally, remember, creative writing, you want to use not only language techniques but also structural techniques. And that takes us towards the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like and share for more. Thank you.